Hello again, this is UML Operator. All right, in this session we're going to talk about the Develop group. We're going to skip over the Explore group as it is in every tab, but we're going to focus on the Development group, starting with data modeling, then schema modeling, and then finally the source code. Now we're just going to touch on this. It's going to be a short video. I'm not going to get into details in this session. As we get into more advanced modeling, object-oriented development approaches using UML and Sparx Enterprise Architect, we'll dive deeper into all of this tooling. By now you should understand what groups are, how they're separated by borders, subgroups separated by borders. So you should understand that as we're moving through this. All right, our first tool is in Data Modeling group. Database Builder, we'll go ahead and select it. So we have this database builder that's up here where you're able to build your databases, constraint indexes, build SQL Scratch, database compare, execute your DDL. As usual in these sessions, I suggest that you go to Start, you go to Help, Open Help, and it will launch the Sparx welcome page. From here, you can go to Application Desktops, go to the ribbon menu, and in this case, we're on the Develop ribbon. So we're going to select that, and you can read ahead. I'm just going to cover this material right here in these panels, these groups, and you can drill down into these and learn more. Right in this help screen, you can see the breadcrumbs across the top. We're in the data model panel, and we are talking about the database builder. Let's go ahead and select this, launch it in a new tab. And it tells you a little bit about this tool. You can navigate through this. This just steps through some static screens. You can look at that. But I suggest that you use the EA example and learn from there. All right, let's launch that. We're going to go to the Start page. I have it pinned over here in my Start page. I'm going to right click because I want to bring it up in a new instance. I'm going to left click and I'm going to launch EA example. All right, so we have the EA example project loaded. We're going to go to database modeling. You can either select this right here, this panel, or you can go over into browser and find all of the examples right here. So I'll let you select through this, but this is a great learning tool that Sparx has provided, and you can go through this. In here, let's just start at the top. DDL, right? So you can go through the DDL views when you're building your database. You can go into an example. They give you some examples here. This is in hand-drawn mode. We spoke about earlier in the layout. Data model, let's look at the logical. So this gives you an idea. And if you're a DBA or you understand database engineering, you're familiar with these models. So more examples. Again, Sparx provides a lot of great tutorials and tooling for your edification. All right, next in the data modeling group is import. You can import your DB schemas in various technologies. You can connect to these data sources and you can import these schemas in. Again, we'll do that in another video. You can select help, drill right down into the subject. I'm going to cancel, right? You can bring those in, define your rules, import to a specific folder where you want your SQL, and so on. You can do packages, diagrams of packages, packages only, lots of configuration here. We'll get into more of this later. Again, help is available. Thank you, Sparx, anytime that you need it. So I'm going to close this one. The next one is generate. So as you're building out your database models, you can generate your own DDLs. So DDL, of course, stands for data definition language or data description language, but you can generate your own DDLs and to specific sources, whatever the element you select. In this case, it's e-commerce, so it's going to use that name for you automatically. You can go to various packages where your data models are, and you can run at the fly. Again, help is available for you there. All right, let's close this. Next is in the subgroup is templates. So I'm going to select this. There's lots of templates that you can choose from. You can define your own templates, but these become very useful when you're building databases and you have reusable templates that you can start to build from. So I cover this again in another session. Lots of different languages that you can choose from. I use MySQL for the most. I use Microsoft SQL, and I use Firebird, right? So lots of technologies, lots of scripts that are available for you, templates rather, for you to start to build out your databases. While you're doing data modeling, you can also start to build your database data types. So very fun subject, help's available. You have a data type map, lots you can do here. Play around if you're a DBA or you're advanced in data technologies, you're gonna have some fun there. So the next we're gonna go into the schema modeling. All right, we're back over at the Sparx site, help site. So we're gonna go into schema modeling. You've been following along. We went from the application development desktop to ribbon menu to the develop ribbon. We're on data modeling. Let's go to schema modeling panel. And here you can read ahead, lots of examples, help for you there. Right, hopefully you still have example project up. So down here, we're in schema, and you can find all of this in the browser. So you have schema modeling over here in the browser, or you can go ahead and launch this icon right here, schema modeling. So in the schema modeling folder, we've got schema composer, and this tells you everything about it. You can drill down into these various schemas, JSON, etc. And they have source examples. This is JSON, JavaScript object notation that you can use to understand or help you understand the schema composer within the tooling, within the development schema composer. So you can open the schema composer, you can import in other files that are done. So you can bring in various schema sets from reference packages, schema files. You can bring those in depending on the file type. All right, next to Schema Composer is Edit. So you can open up schemas in various languages and technologies, and you can edit those using Sparx if you're not using your integrated development tooling. So I'm going to cancel. You also can import XSDs, WSDLs, can help available for you. You can export your XSDs, your WSDLs. There's lots of tooling that's available for you and lots of help for you to use this tooling under schema modeling. Next, we're going to move into source code. All right, in the source code group, we start with create from pattern. You can select this. You have various patterns to start with. You can build your own patterns. When you're further advanced, I want to say, in Sparx Enterprise Architect, integrated with your IDE, your integrated development environment. So lots to do there. You can also edit. So you can go in and you can edit source code that's available to you, various languages and technologies. I'm going to cancel. Behavior, you can edit behavior, internal code, edit source code around behavior. Solutions, again, once you're integrated, I use Visual Studio the most. I use Eclipse and I use NetBeans for over 25 years, but don't really use it anymore. I really love Visual Studio integration with Sparx. In the files drop down in the source code group, you're allowed to edit new source files, import source directories, and lots of other things around various technologies. Again, we're going to get into this when we get into more advanced subjects. Let's go to a test bed. So this is empty. Yeah, this is an empty diagram. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to import a source repository. I'm going to just bring in some source code out of the demo repo. I'm using C#. You can choose any technology you want. It knows the extension for C#, CS. You can configure your options, your package structure, diagrams, etc. Right? And most importantly, pay attention to remove classes not found in code. So I have it on never delete. Be careful here. And then what we're going to do is just going to hit OK. It's running through reverse engineering. It found one source file, CS source file, and it built that out for me. So I'm allowed to select this, and in here, I'm just going to hit F12 on this. There's also, I'm just used to hitting F12. There used to be a pop-up here where you could view, and I'll find that later when we get in those sessions. But if I hit F12, because I brought this out of that source repo, that code, it brought in all the code, and I can actually start editing here if I like. You can also, let me go on this, you can select classes that you're modeled and you're building, you want to develop, and you can actually start stubbing out some code. I'm actually going to use a real code model in this case. We're going to go to generate single element. If you have selected elements that are interfaced with each other and you want to build your code within a single bed, generate all. I'm just going to do single element. So you go through here and you chose the path where you want to do it, the language you want to choose. When we get into more advanced, we're going to be talking about PIM modeling, platform independent modeling into domain specific languages. So you can actually have a PIM class, a PIM model, and then make up your mind what code you want or technology you want to develop on, depending on the class elements, models, and so on. So I'm just going to go C#, and I'm just going to hit generate. You can go into advanced, more configuration. I'm going to close this. I'm getting ahead here. I didn't want to do that. Just hit generate, and it will generate the source code for you. So you can test it, unit testing, and so on within your IDE. We'll get there. When we get into advanced, you can do sync between Sparx Enterprise Architect and your IDE. Again, IDE, most of developers know this, your integrated development environment. You can synchronize your packages and your code between Sparx and your code repo. You have other options, templates, namespaces, configure, live code, and we'll get into that. All right, next we're going to get into execution analyzer, and then grammar editor and code analyzer before we wrap up. All right, if we select the execution analyzer, as soon as we select this, it will launch the execution analyzer. For me, it pops up in the upper right window on this tab, and we'll get into this when we get into actual code development. So open debugger, tooling, profile, recorder. These are the typical tooling that you have in your IDE. I don't really use Sparx for these things. I use my integrated development environment. I find Visual Studio very productive for me, so I do everything pretty much there. But you can do all the round trip engineering in Sparx Enterprise Architect. I heard something very interesting, that all of the code that's developed for this tool, this platform, Sparx Enterprise Architect, by the Sparx developers, is all done in Sparx, no other IDE. Very interesting. All right, so let's see, enough on that one. Grammar editor, you get a grammar editor that pops up, a debugger, macro editor, your unit testing, system testing, integration testing, all across your cycles. This becomes a very useful tooling. You have code analyzer. Let me close this here because I want to be on that. That launches up. So you got code analyzer that popped up. You can work with, you do your unit testing, your scripting, and so on using analyzer. So there's your source and your query. Let's see, what else? I think that's all we're going to cover. I'm trying to keep this video as short as possible. I know I went very fast. Hopefully I pointed out a lot of these Sparx help capabilities for you, a lot of the examples, whether it's the EA example project that they give you or videos and content that they give you off the Sparx site via the help navigation. All right, let's wrap up. In this session, we focused on the Develop tab. We touched on the Data Modeling group, the Schema group, and the Source Code group. We covered a great deal of information today that really needs individual sessions to understand and demonstrate the power of Sparx Enterprise Architect. So I was able to share with you ways that you can find help via Sparx, whether you're using the online site. I prefer using the EA example project that Sparx provides you in your installation. I use that in my class training with various students' levels of advancement. And the project is very beneficial for understanding the power and capabilities in Sparx Enterprise Architect. So thanks for watching. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.